Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us this day as we are studying the subject that arouses much attention and interest, the mark of the beast. What is the mark of the beast? Well, if you'll stay with us, we'll discuss that, and hopefully we'll shed some bit of understanding to you about what the mark of the beast is. We're in chapter 13 of Romans, or rather Revelations. We're in the latter half of the book. And this latter half of the book, which deals more specifically with the same things that the first half dealt with, we have seen three evil, wicked beings that are introduced. In the 12th chapter, the beginning of the second part, we find introduced the great red dragon. Fearful and awesome is that dragon. And he is one that sought to destroy the man-child of the radiant woman, that is, the man-child, Jesus Christ. But when Jesus was born, he was caught up to heaven. He was saved from the destructive efforts of the dragon. And the woman, two wings of an eagle were given to her, and she fled away into the wilderness where she was preserved for times and half a time. We look at that, and then we see that frustrated, the dragon went away to wage war with the rest of the seed of the woman, and he needed allies in what he did. So, in chapter 13, we find these two allies of the red dragon. The first is the beast that comes out of the sea. And this beast that comes out of the sea is much like the dragon. Like the dragon's red, so is he. Like the dragon has 7 heads, so does he. And like the dragon has 10 horns, so does he. He is that is identified in the scriptures as oppressive, and to him was given authority over those that were the seeds of the woman, God's people. And he oppressed them for 42 months. And great power was given to him. And he had a name speaking blasphemy, and he had a voice speaking blasphemy. And he blasphemed the name of God, and the tabernacle of God, and those in heaven. Also, to help the dragon in his war against the seed of the woman, we find that the record says that there was a second beast. But unlike the first that came out of the sea, this beast came out of the earth. And unlike that first that was fearful in its appearance, this beast was not. It was innocent looking. It looked like a lamb. It had 2 horns, like a lamb, but it had the voice of a dragon. And it spake and had authority over men under the oversight of the beast. And it worked signs and miracles. It caused fire to come from heaven. It caused not only fire to come from heaven, it caused the people that dwell on earth, the earthlings, to worship the beast. And he compelled them that they should make an image of that beast. And this beast out of the earth gave life to that image and then a voice to that image. Now, truly, these were not miracles. They were appearances, signs. The word deceive is used, indicating that what appeared to be really wasn't. But he exercised his power, and the earthlings worshipped this beast and the image of this beast. And the beast out of the earth gave them a mark that was in their foreheads, their hands. And the number of that beast was 666. The earth beast was that represented the arm of the Roman Empire. The Roman, oppressive Roman Empire, was the first beast. And the sea beast was the arm, or the earth beast was the arm of that Roman authorities that enforced with rigor and with destructive intent the worship of that first beast. In him it says that the beast made the people to build an object, an image of the sea beast. And then the earth beast gave to that image of that one life and a voice. And this represents and tells us of that power that was exercised by the Roman authorities, the worship of the emperor, and the cult of worshiping the emperor and calling him God. It was at this point that God's people clashed with the Roman authorities, for they could acknowledge none to be God but the one God. And so for many years they were oppressed, persecuted. And to these, however, that were the earth beasts, the ones that with them worshipped the sea creature, was given a name, a mark. This mark was in their foreheads, on their hands. That is, it was the intent of their heart and their mind and in their hands to carry out the work, the wicked works of this sea beast, to blaspheme God's name, to persecute those that were the saints. And this mark that was the mark of the beast was an ominous signature, 666. Now what does it mean? And what's the significance of it? Well, it'd do well for us to consider for a while what the significance of that is. First of all, remember that the people of Christ and God were given a mark. They were sealed. And this sealing of God did not preserve them from earthly injury and damage, but it did preserve them for eternal security and peace. And of the two, the latter is far more important. But the mark of the beast was that gave an advantage to those that were the creatures and the worshipers of the sea beast, that willingly, joyfully said, Caesar is Lord, and worshipped him as God. And this mark on their forehead allowed them to buy and to sell, to do all manners of trade. It was an advantage to them, and the one that did not have that mark could not buy nor sell. They were in a very, very troublesome circumstance. Christians did not have that mark. Those that were ones that were the followers of Satan, who worshipped the image of the emperor, it was an advantage to them. But as we look at that, through the centuries, individuals have pondered who this man was and what the mark of the beast meant. Through the ages, individuals that live in that particular time have been identified confidently by so-called Bible scholars. He is the one that bears the mark of the beast in our day. In recent years that have passed, Hitler, Stalin, other wicked men that have arisen and gone have been ones identified as that man that was the mark of the beast. But we want to remind you that as we open the very beginning of the book of Revelation, we find that the record says that John received a vision from the Lord of the things that must shortly come to pass. And then he wrote of those things that were at hand. So when we look at the book of Revelation, we're making a major, major blunder and mistake if we try to apply those things primarily to things that lay into the future, to our day, for instance, for it had reference to the events of that first century. And we already identified the sea beast as that Roman Empire and the earth beast as that measure of emperor worship. Now we want to look at this idea of 666. What did that mean? What did that mean? Well, in the book of Revelation, you must be constantly reminded that numbers had a significance. Particularly, the number 7 had a significance. In the very beginning, John was commissioned to write to the 7 churches of Asia. And John, in the first chapter, sees one walking in the midst of candlesticks who has 7 stars in his hand. We see 7 found elsewhere. We see the one that is the eternal God sitting on his throne, identifies in the 4th chapter. As in the 5th chapter, having a book sealed, yes, with 7 seals. And then when those 7 seals are opened, then we see, following that, 7 trumpets. We see different creatures having 7 heads or 7 horns. And the word 7 is used to denote a measure of perfection, completeness. The figure 6 also has significance. It is that is the number of man. And as we look at man strives almost to be 7, but he never makes it. He will fall always short of completeness and perfectness on this earth. He will find completeness in Christ in heaven, but he will never attain on this earth perfection. So when we look at 6 then, and the number of this man as 666, we are looking at the fact that man fails to reach the number 7, perfection. And multiplied by 3, it is simply a measure of great emphasis. Failure. What the writer is showing and what the master is showing, yes, is that this sea beast and this earth beast, however intent that they are, however powerful they are, and power they had, that ultimately they would fail. They were not failing in the first century. Saints were being persecuted, imprisoned. Their properties were seized and taken from them. And yes, they were killed. And the empire looked as though it was invincible. It would accomplish its purpose. And the intent and the final, ultimate goal of that sea beast and that earth beast, because it was the goal of the great red dragon, the devil, was to destroy, to obliviate from this earth those that were the people of God, to destroy them. And when we look, when John wrote, they were suffering a period of intense persecution. It had begun with Nero in the 60s. It would follow for another couple of centuries. God's people were persecuted, as we already said. They would not accept the idea that Caesar was God and paid a price for that. But while we look at these Christians in a dejected and a low state, and the emperor worship and the Roman Empire riding on a high cloud, it looked like nothing would prevent them from accomplishing their task. Do you know what? They failed. They failed. Failure. They did not obliviate the saints of God from this earth. For another 200 years after Revelation was written, plus a few years, the Roman Empire continued. But cracks in their armor began, and ultimately they were overthrown. Where is the Roman Empire today? It's gone. those whom Satan oppressed through that Roman Empire, are they also gone? No, indeed. They are here today, found in almost every corner of the earth, who reject Caesar as God and reject any man as God, and freely confess there is one God and Father. And as we look, we see that there is that great promise that John made, that Jesus made in Revelation 17. He speaks of the conflict that continued on from chapters 14, 15, 16, 17, into verse 18 and 19, chapter 19. That war between emperor worship, the Roman Empire, and the saints of God. Revelation 17:14 says, and these shall make war against the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he's King of kings, and he's Lord of lords. And, now listen, for this assurance, they also shall overcome that are with him. Who are the ones that are with the Lord? Called, chosen, faithful. So, the figure 666 was that was the symbol of man. And while Christians were suffering, there was the assurance in the naming of this man. Ultimately, he will fail, and Christ will gain the victory, and those that are with Christ will gain the victory. Next time, study with us as we study about blood that flows so prolifically until to the bridles on horses. Thank you, friend.